Let's get started. And thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And especially thank you to those who are here live. This is the first time that we've done a Red Cape Revolution hosted Ask Me Anything. And I really mean it. I just want to have the opportunity for you to ask me anything. But first, I want to say something to you, and I just want to say thank you. I mean, you're the reason that we get to do the work that I do, that we get to help each other, that I have this great insider community. I mean, it's all about you and you helping each other and you supporting the idea of what it feels like when you have a Red Cape career, when you are really soaring through work and your life. And I know that that has not been easy for a lot of us this year. And quite honestly, it hasn't always been easy for a lot of us for the past several years. And so I'm so honored that you showed up tonight to ask a question, to hear answers to questions, and just to be part of us trying to keep each other's Red Cape soaring and keep each other just moving forward in the world of work. So thank you for being here tonight. So know that this is not a non-PowerPoint night. So you're just stuck with me, no fancy graphics, no anything, because I'm really just going to be answering your questions. And I've got questions that you said in advance, as well as we're going to use the chat. So if you're just joining us, pop into the chat, say hi. For those of you who weren't on earlier, let me just introduce my great assistant and client concierge, Deb Pelham. She is in the chat and she'll be popping in the chat to answer questions if there's a technical problem, and also just to be adding different resources and links and help keep me on track. Also, Deb's going to help us with what we're going to do throughout the evening, which is also give away some goodies as thank you to you coming. And so I've got like a stack of a list, and it's probably going to come up backwards because it's like on video, but I wanted to remind myself what goodies we were giving away tonight. So because you're here at 6:02, right, top of the hour, I want to give away something that I feel is really valuable for a lot of us right now. And all I can really give of you a value is myself and my time and things that I provide to my clients. And so we've got a free one of my deep dive strategy programs. That's what this says here. It's probably does it show up backwards? It probably shows up backwards. Tell me if it shows up backwards. But that we're going to give away to somebody on this call right now. So here's how you kind of raise your hand to be in it. So Deb's going to pick a number in her head. We know how many people are on right now as of this moment. But here's the question I want you to answer. And there's no right or wrong. Just to be entered in it, you have to just answer the question. And if you don't want to answer it, just say, hey, or just something like that. Oh, I thank you. Someone says it's not backwards. I appreciate it. Thanks. So if you would like to be picked as a winner of a deep dive strategy program with me, which is basically a few hours session plus pre-work plus follow-up, where we get to go deep into something that you need to work on in your career, in your work life, for your future. It can be really, really specific. And it's a great way just to kind of clear the clutter on some things that are happening. So if you'd like to be in that drawing, here you have to answer the question. So get ready. And again, there's no right or wrong. You just have to chime in. Question is, why did you decide to join us tonight? Okay, so 30 seconds. Why did you decide to join us tonight? So just chime in, and from everybody who answers the question, we're going to pick one, and Deb's going to make sure you get a deep dive career strategy program with me. So you've got 30 seconds. Dive in. I'm putting this aside, so I remember we're going to do that, give that away. Yeah, isolated, booster Red Cape, good. We're giving that kickstart, career development. professional growth. And remember, no right or wrong. Okay, just a few more seconds. Chime in, feeling stuck. Yeah, stuck. That comes up a lot, right? Thank you guys. Yes. Okay, and 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's time. So Deb, you're going to pick a winner. So Deb Pelham is going to tell us in the chat who the winner of this is. And if it's not you, the winner is Ginny Crooks. Okay, congratulations to Ginny. You get one of my deep dive career strategy programs. So I'm honored to have a chance to work with you as a thanks for being here. But don't worry, guys, there's more stuff coming just because it's so fun to get a chance to, I don't really see you, but I get a chance to connect with you a little and hear the issues that are going on for you. So let's dive into the Ask Me Anything. So I've got some questions to start, but if you joined us just a little bit ago, chime into the chat. We're just going to keep everything in the chat. So if I miss your question, Deb's going to make sure that I don't. If for some reason we've got so many questions, and I actually do have a lot of starter questions, that we don't get to yours, we're going to make sure that we go through the chat, that we make sure that everybody gets their question answered, because that's my commitment here to you. So here's the first question. Okay. So this might be something that is on a lot of your minds. I'm frustrated. I've been out of work since May. I'm networking. I'm on LinkedIn. What else should I be doing? You know, one of the reasons that I picked this question first is that even if you're not out of work, that there are things all of us can do right now in a time that feels very uncertain to help us support our careers, to support each other, and to be able to continue to grow in the way that we want to grow. I saw some of you say that you really want to, you're here because you want to grow, that you always like to learn, you always want to make sure you're growing. So a couple things on this question. Before the pandemic, you may or may not realize that job search was usually taking between 3 and 5 months. And it's probably no surprise to you that that's also expanded in many cases. On the other hand, there are industries, there are areas where there are opportunities that are popping up new all the time. Someone asked me the other day, how is it that the same company could be laying off people and then also hiring people? Well, here's what's going on that you may not realize, is that organizations are taking an opportunity to rethink and retool for the future. And, you know, in many ways, it's kind of what we're all doing ourselves, right? And so as they're doing that, some areas of their business need to be reduced and some areas need to be increased. So our roles as we're looking at companies and work and business is to follow the pain. Like, where is the pain? Whether it's in my own company, whether it's in companies I'm interested in, or a profession that I'm interested in. Because when our job search isn't working or when our work isn't working, often we need to step back and find where's the pain, where's the problem, that also then the things that I can uniquely solve. So it may be something like recognizing that in, let's say, an industry like logistics, that there's a lot of demand right now that moving things around it needs to happen, you know, faster and faster and smoother and smoother. It's like, okay, great. What are the companies that are trying to move their products around faster? What about, is there healthcare? Is there something that's in my location? But it's kind of like being a detective in many ways and thinking differently about jobs and not just waiting for a job to be posted. And this also goes for when you're looking for change if you're in your own organization. I find a lot of people wait too long and they just wait for someone else to decide that there's a role to be had instead of finding the pain, sniffing out the pain and the problems, and helping other people create a role for you there. So what else should you be doing? Find the pain, I think, is the big piece of my advice that is helping people sometimes co-create opportunities with other employers, co-create a new business, or find things in your own job that there's some of this work you might have been doing isn't as important anymore, and there's other things that's more important. So being able to have those conversations, to be able to find the pain, is one of those characteristics that not a lot of people talk about, but is the difference between finding opportunities and not having opportunities at all. Okay, so as we go along too, Deb's going to pop in some other resources, that we thought might be helpful. So, and we'll make sure you get those sent out with the replay as well. So there's probably a lot more to be said about what else to do, but for the sake of time, I want to make sure that that's one thing, that finding the pain is a big thing about when you're, when your work's not working. You find how you can help, how you can serve, who needs you. So, all right. I want to go into one of the questions that's in the chat here, and before we go to the next one. So let's see. Michael, you asked, how do you decide between two equally positive and promising opportunities? Good for you, Michael. That's great, especially when you're in circumstance where you aren't crystal clear with what you want to do when you grow up. Anybody relate to that? If you do, chime in, say hi. Yes, give Michael some support, because it happens, right? And good for you that this is a reflection of what I was talking about before, that there are people that are hiring. There are companies that are growing. There are professions that are expanding. So also don't lose the battle of the brain, as I'll often call it, and think that, oh, there are no jobs out there. There's nothing for me. There's nothing, no one's ever going to hire ever again, because it's just not true. And also it just doesn't help. So how do you decide between two equally positive and promising opportunities when you're not quite sure what you want to be when you grow up? One of the filters that I'll often suggest that people use, I think I mentioned it a minute ago, is who do you care about serving? Often we focus on what do we want to do, but I'm finding increasingly this question of who do I serve? Who do I care about? Who do I want to work with? What are the kinds of people that I want my work to make a difference for? Can sometimes put a better filter on helping us do things that are in our superpower space. That instead of us putting ourselves in a narrow box of, I'm a consultant, or I'm an executive assistant, or I'm a communication professional, that we can think more about the end game, the end state. Who is it that I serve? Who are the people I care about? What are the situations that I care about? Where am I curious? I think that sometimes if there are two things that feel equal, paying attention to what's not equal in terms of the types of people and the types of experiences that you would get. So that's the first place that I would start, Michael. If I think those things aren't clear, then here's another reality. You're not going to make a mistake. The truth is that we all can only make the decision that's at the best knowledge that we have, that's right for us at the time. A lot of times when I am coaching with people and helping them figure out different types of career steps, people will get frozen. I saw a lot of people, you earlier in the chat, say, well, I'm here because I'm stuck. The truth is, the decision you make is going to be the right thing for you at this particular time. A year from now, could you go back? Could you, look back and say, oh, well, knowing what I know now, I should have gone left instead of right. But the truth is, you don't know that right now. And you didn't know that until you've had the learning experience that it took you over that year. Does that make sense? This is the hard part about not having your faces to know whether this is making sense or not. But I find that we beat ourselves up so much, and we really don't need to. If we've done our basic homework and we've had good conversations and we understand, even if we don't know everything we want to be when we grow up, as Michael expressed in his question, we kind of have a good sense. And if we start to trust ourselves a little bit, we're not going to make a mistake. Okay, I hope that's helpful. So, all right. Let's, you know what? I'm going to go to one more question and then we're going to go to another drawing. And thank you, Michael. I'm glad that was clear. We all overthink our decisions, right? Because we've been taught that it's black and white. It's never black and white. But if we don't step forward, we don't move. And as my dad used to say, even if you fall on your face, that's still moving forward. So we hope you don't fall on your face, but whatever decision you make will probably be a good one for you. All right, so here's a question from Becky. Continued evolution typically presents new opportunities. How true? Yes. No matter if we're in a pandemic or just a regular old day after Labor Day, right? How can I be ready for what may lie ahead in 2021? How can I keep growing and developing? I saw a lot of you say that you're here because you want to grow, you want to continue developing. Thank you for the question. A lot of people have written this year off. And if you've been on some of my webinars before for other organizations, you know it's a pretty common mindset that people just wish they just want to fast forward into the new year. Becky's question is intriguing because how can she be ready for what may lie ahead? And to me, the first thing we have to do is we've got to give ourselves credit for what we really have done this year. And you may think that you've been in stall mode, or maybe you've been out of work, or maybe your work has changed, or you're not doing work that you love because of just all the chaos of the year. But I invite you to really take a hard look and feel free to chime in the chat of find something that you're proud of. You've probably learned something new you've never done. You probably have showed up in a way that you never had to show up before. I think we've got some questions a little bit later about remote working and managing people remotely. So how is it that you can, can look at that differently? How can you make sure that as you're thinking about growth, you're giving yourself credit for what you've already done? And then when you start with recognizing truly what you've already done, which, by the way, is a good thing to write down, because you're going to forget how you reacted in your business or in your work in March, April, May, when it comes time in November, December, January for your annual review, for anything else. Keep track of what you're growing, of how you're changing, of what you're trying differently. This is important. You're going to want this information to remind yourself too of progress. And then I think as you're thinking about growing and developing, Becky, the other thing I would say is kind of echoing what I said before of who am I helping? Less about what I want to be doing and more about who I want to be helping. And if that's not feeling it's on track, then you have a chance to shift. If I really care more about these people in my audience or these people in my company, what do I need to learn to get there? Do I just need to spend some time with them? Do I need to understand their pain? Do I need to understand what the problems are? So that's a way you can keep growing and developing, by asking those questions, following your curiosity, and remembering that you have done a whole lot more this year than you give yourself credit for. Somebody says, keep a running list of accomplishments. Absolutely. Working remotely. Absolutely. I mean, those are all wins. I work with a lot of people who are achievers on the Gallup Strengths Finders, and oftentimes those of us who recognize who are achievers, we think the only achievement counts is if we cross the finish line. But when we only wait till we cross the finish line, we don't give ourselves credit for all the work that went into everything that goes along. Those finish line moments come few and far between. Anybody ever worked on a big project? I mean, there's a million steps in that. But getting to the next milestone, having a great conversation, having a new awareness, making a new friend, or building more trust in a relationship, those are wins. Mark them down. Okay. All right. So let's do another giveaway. What do we have here? Let's do this. I've got a private LinkedIn video review. So if you followed me for a while, you know I believe in the power of LinkedIn. And what we'll do for the winner of this is I'll give you some pre-questions to answer, just so that I know what's important to you, what your direction is, if you have a particular direction. And then I will record a video of me going through your LinkedIn profile and give you some tangible, specific things that you can do with the free version of LinkedIn, because I really do think it's all you need for most situations to be able to ramp up your presence on LinkedIn, so that you can use that powerful tool to show the world your superpowers and get whatever you need, whether that's opportunities, whether that's visibility. So the private LinkedIn video review. So here is what you need to do. So here's the question. Again, I'm going to ask a question, and all you need to do is answer it. There's no right or wrong. There's no judgment. And then Deb is going to just randomly select one from everybody that answers. Here's the question. What's the one word that describes you at your very best? Okay, 30 seconds. Remember, there's no right or wrong. One word that describes you at your very best. Chime in for the chance to get your private LinkedIn profile review. That's a mouthful, right? Private LinkedIn profile video review. Okay, chime in. We've got capable, confident, capable, helpful, energy. All right, just a few more seconds. Chime in. I love passionate. Shining. I love shining, Eric. That's awesome. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. And the winner is Tammy. Okay. All right. Tammy's the winner of the private LinkedIn video review. I just said it right that time. What a gift. So, all right. Fantastic. Congrats. So thank you. Thank you for playing. Thank you guys for chiming in. Again, if you have a question, dive it right into the chat, but I'm just going to keep going through the questions that came in advance. And also, if you win something tonight, Deb Pelham, my client concierge, my awesome assistant, we'll be in touch. Look for email from her, and we'll get you all set up with whatever the goodie is that we're giving away. So that's how that will work. Okay. All right. Here's a question from Lisa. Hi, Darcy. Hi, Lisa. I've worked for the same company for about 7.5 years. I'd like to move into project coordination, but I feel like the company's put me in a box and I feel like there's limited room for growth. I've expressed my desire to expand my role, and I've done it unofficially, and I did a great job at it. Good. I love it when we take credit for the work that we did. My manager likes having me in the role, and in the role that I'm currently in, because it benefits her, and she doesn't seem interested in my growth. How do I get out of the box with this organization, or is it time to move on? Anybody ever get stuck in the box? Anybody ever have a situation where you feel like, okay, I was really good at this thing for a period of time, and then now I've grown, and yet they're still looking at me like the thing that I was, and not the thing that I am now, or the thing that I aspire to be. Casey says all the time. I remember this happening to me early in my career in HR and communication consulting, that, the person I had grown to was not considered to be, I mean, people were still looking at me as the person who started. And I had a mentor tell me once, you can't be a preacher in your own backyard. And I think that's true in some cases, but for a situation like this that Lisa writes, here's a couple of thoughts of how to get out of the box and how to create new opportunities doing something that maybe not totally different, but that's more in line with, as you guys know, what I call your superpower space. So first of all, the mistake I see a lot of people make is not getting specific about what they want. Often people will have these conversations with their manager where it will be more like, well, if you think about it, or I'd really like to, as opposed to making a request, as opposed to being specific and saying, as I've done some deeper thinking about my career path, I really want to be spending a majority of my time in project coordination. What are the one or two steps that I can take to be able to have those opportunities here? So, you have to customize the words for your situation. But when we just kind of talk vaguely about, well, I'd like to, or, I'm really good at this, that people can't always put the links together for us. They can't always connect the dots between what I've said and a real action. So you may have to do the homework, Lisa, in your company for getting to something specific. And it may be asking for the steps, or here, even better, find the pain in your company that needs you as a project leader, as a project manager. It may not be your own department. You've been in that company for 7.5 years. So my bet is that you know people, that you have relationships with people. I mean, anymore, we don't kind of linger in jobs for 7 years that we haven't built a reputation, right? That we're not trusted by somebody. My bet is you have more trust and more relationships and leverage. So find the pain where they need more project management. Maybe it is something that's right in your own department. Now, you mentioned your manager doesn't seem interested in helping you grow. Well, yeah, because your growth causes a problem for her, right? Because you're good at what you do. And when you move into something else, that creates a hole. That creates a problem. This is also, side note, for those of you who are in jobs and you're a little worried about whether or not you might be laid off at some point in the near future, the more you can be doing the things that your manager doesn't want to do, where you can be filling the gaps that your manager doesn't want, or whoever is the person that's going to have to evaluate that list. This is finding the pain, right? Where are the problems? Because when you're the person that, like, if you go away, your leader doesn't want to do that work and it still has to be done, you become more valuable. Okay, that was a side note. But so, Lisa, for you, find that specific thing. You may have to propose an idea. You may have to say, you know what, I've been talking to some of the different leaders at the different departments, and I believe there's an opportunity where we need a dedicated project manager in the shipping department. Would you be open to me mapping out what that could look like? And maybe the pitch is not to your boss. It could be to the person who has the pain. It could be to the head of the shipping department who's like, hallelujah, I didn't know there was somebody like you who knows our company and also can do project management. So get specific with that. Deb's posted, and thank you, Deb, for reading my mind halfway to, in between, that there are scripts for having a tough conversations with your boss, with your leader, out on redcaperevolution.com. She's posted the link. We'll send it out after too if you miss it right now. But often we do have to call these things into question. And the mistake I often see people make too is that they assume because they brought it up and nothing happens, that, well, then it's time to move on. But they haven't put anything that someone could distinctly say yes or no to, like, I'd like to create a job over here. Would you be open to a further conversation about that? Yeah, I'd be open to a further conversation about that. Or here's this problem that I see that because I've done X, Y, and Z, I think I'm uniquely positioned to solve. You know, is that something that we could talk about how to make that real? Or what are the 1 or 2 steps that would be helpful for you if we were going to have that conversation with your boss? Make it specific. Okay. Thank you, Linda, for coming. Appreciate you being here. So, and you remind me we're kind of a halfway point of our time. So I hope that helps. Oh, one more thing. If you are somebody trying to get out of the box, or you're trying to move into a different box, maybe you like the box you're in, but you're looking at where you want to grow to. Update your LinkedIn profile. Make sure your headline matches who you want to be, not who you've been. This is a mistake we see a lot, where people are framing themselves in the past as opposed to in the future. So focus yourself forward. Who can you help? Where's the pain? As I keep saying, maybe that's the theme for tonight. Where's the pain, right? But you can get out of that box, and you have to try these strategies before I would suggest you giving up on your current company. Because after being there 7.5 years, you've got a lot of things to give. You have a lot of value. Okay. All right. I am going to just look at, okay, here's a question that came through for Edna. I'm trying to expand my network. Sometimes I'm frustrated by folks who don't always return calls, LinkedIn inquiries, and emails. This can happen with people I've worked with too. Everybody claims to be so busy. I move on, but I don't want to waste my time. Any suggestions? Yes. So when we're expanding our network, the best place to expand our network is through what I don't just call this, everybody calls a warm introduction. So be clear first about who are the kind of people that I want to meet. What do I want to learn about? Who's out there that I want to get to know? We often underestimate who we already knows. Who we know already knows. When I'm working with people who are doing a career change or even a core job search, often what I'll hear them say is, well, I don't know anybody in XYZ industry, like the industry that they want. But they're forgetting about the people that they know, like neighbors, people they go to church with, past colleagues, personal friends, alumni. Because the truth is that even the people that you don't know professionally, if they're in the work world, if they're professional, they know other people. And so connecting to them for a warm introduction, and the introduction also can't be, hey, I'm looking for a job. Do you know anybody who has a job? Because that shuts down a conversation right away. And here's why. Because the brain wants to be safe. The brain wants to be right. And people don't have an answer to, do you know of any jobs for me? Because we're not just all walking around with like a list of open opportunities in our head. And yet we don't want to just tell you, no, don't bother me. So either what happens if we're asking the wrong question, we get the response where people just ignore it. Like, I don't know how to answer that now, so I'll just deal with that later, which may be one of the reasons you're not getting emails answered or LinkedIn inquiries answered. Like, what's the question you're asking? But a warm introduction from somebody else communicates trust. It's basically saying, I trust this person, and so you can trust this person too. And so if you're not finding success and connecting to people, I might think about, who do I already know that I want to ask who they know? And if you have a particular industry, you have a particular profession, that's even better, getting more specific to be able to say, I'm thinking about what's next for me. And one of the areas I'm exploring is management consulting. I know you know a lot of people. Are there one or two people that come to mind who have some kind of background in management consulting that you'd feel comfortable introducing me to? This is another beautiful thing about LinkedIn, is that you can often see who your friend might be connected to, and you could ask them specifically. And I would do it in email, not in LinkedIn. But by giving people something specific to answer, what you might have noticed in that phrase is that I said, what, one or two? It helps the brain not go into that overwhelm. We're asking a narrow question. We're asking something that pulls the field down to, oh, you one or two people in management consulting. Well, let me look at my LinkedIn profile. Oh yeah, Bob. Yeah, Bob would be happy to talk to somebody. So target those questions more. One other thing too that I think we all want to be aware of is that email goes so fast these days. And the service providers, whether you're Gmail user or Outlook or your own company email, the filters are harder and harder to get through. If somebody doesn't know you, and I'll tell you, you guys are all on my part of my insider community. I bet there's been times when, even if you've been reading my emails and responding and been part of our community for years, that every once in a while, something goes into spam, something goes into another folder. This happens with our personal emails as well. And so I always say, assume positive intent. That just because you've emailed somebody doesn't mean they've opened it. It doesn't mean they've read it. It doesn't mean they know what to do about it. So persistence, positive persistence, if it is somebody that you really want to connect with, if it is somebody that there's a reason, like, where you could be of value to them too. Remember, it's not just all about you. Who do you want to help? Then follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. I think often this is a place we fall down because we tell ourselves, oh, I don't want to be a bother. Oh, I don't want to be annoying. Well, if you are coming at the networking, at the connecting from a place of, I'm just looking for who I can serve. I've got something that I can help somebody with. So of course I'm going to continue to follow up. Then it makes it a lot easier to follow up. And you know what? The people that you're talking to or you're reaching out to, they're adults. And if after 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tries, they don't respond, let's say, they're responsible for their own behavior. Like, if they piss them off, so be it. Your intention's not to do that. You'll never hear about it because they're never going to respond. So I would rather see you take the risk, ask for the introduction, ask the right question that makes somebody be able to answer you easily without having to burn a lot of brain calories, than to just give up. So I hope that helps. So let's go on to the next question and see, to make sure that so that was Edna's question. So Eric, okay. Tips on applying for jobs in different industries with no actual work experience, but superpowers fit for the job. For example, fashion sales to medical sales. Great question, Eric. So here is one thing that triggers me in what you're even the phrasing of that is applying for jobs. So just to say it, the application process, the online press a button, upload a resume, all of that is broken. I don't know if we have any recruiters on here. I have several recruiters who follow our work and are part of our insider community. But it was broken before COVID. It is even more broken now. So when we're thinking about applying, most professionals and most people who follow the work that we do, you're not straight out of school, right? You've got some experience. Your likelihood of getting a callback, of getting noticed through an application is slim to none. What your advantage is back to Edna's question, is about people, is about connecting to people. Because people don't hire resumes, people don't hire applications, people hire people. And so if you are wanting to make a explainable transfer, I mean, fashion sales to medical sales, the audience is different. Is the core of it the same? Is the core of sales? Like, how do I help identify my audience? How do I help market them and solve their problem, whether it's they need to look great on a Saturday night or they need to have the right tool in their toolkit to help a medical problem? I mean, there's commonality in that, but it doesn't communicate on a resume. It is even difficult to communicate on LinkedIn, although there are some ways that we can do that in our about section. It communicates person to person. And so my recommendation is to stop spending time applying to things. And you didn't say you were, I'm picking on you a little bit, Eric, but to start upping the conversations you're having, and with the conversations with people in the field where you want to go, where you are positioning yourself, not as, I'd like to be in medical sales, but I am a salesperson. I just happen to have been selling in the fashion industry, and I really like to learn more about selling in the medical industry. And having those conversations allows someone to see that, hey, this is a professional. This is not a kid. Like, this is a person who knows what sales are and how commissions work and all of the aspects of that. And those conversations lead us to the pain. Where is the pain in the medical sales industry? What are the places that, who needs to be hiring fast? What can you learn on your own? What do you need to learn from a company? So that's a way, really through people, not through applying, that that you can help you jump forward. So I hope that's helpful, Eric. Thank you, Edna. No, you need to leave. Melissa, yes, the plan is that we do have kind of a collection of links. That here's the insider scoop, that we are trying to update some of the free tools section we have on my website. And so some of these are kind of naturally falling into categories. And so we've been organizing them anyway. So we'll have them all for you too, so you don't have to go look at it now. So great. Okay, let's do another giveaway. It's getting to the top of the hour, and I promise you we'd go as long as we can answer the questions, but I don't want to keep you too long. So here's what I want to give away now. Okay, a Power Hour coaching session with me. Okay, this is what it sounds like. It's a power hour. It's going deep for an hour. Often with my ongoing coaching clients, we will do this every other week, but the hour gives you the chance to go deeper than you can just with a regular consult and chat, and get really, really focused on an action that's right for you. So here's the question. If you joined us late, all you need to do to enter is just to answer the question. Just say anything. You can even just say pizza. I don't care. It doesn't even need to make sense. But here's the question. What's one thing you want to grow in yourself for 2021? Okay, one thing you want to grow in yourself for 2021. All right, so it's going to take 30 seconds and go and just add them into the chat. So confidence, positive, confidence, fearless, video editing skills, something very specific. Great. That's really pizza. Yay. I know I was just starting to get hungry. Sorry for the pizza crack. Courage to start my own business. Yes. So just about 5 more seconds. Chime in if you want to be in the drawing for a Power Hour coaching session. No right or wrong. Share my story, service, negotiation, advocate. Great. Okay, and that is time. Okay, and now the mighty and powerful Deb Pelham is going to randomly pick. The winner is Lisa R. Okay. Believing. Great. Believing. Yes. Okay, great. Congratulations, Lisa. You're going to get to work with me. I get to work with you for an hour. I feel fortunate. Okay. All right. Moving on. How's this going? Are we good? How's the questions? Keep the questions coming. Okay. Here is a question that may be relevant for a lot of you. I mean, you know, if you are in a have been in a traditional office environment, you are likely now working remotely. So here's the question. This was sent in confidentially. How do you make the transition from face-to-face peer to virtual manager? So it's hard enough to become somebody's manager when they're your peer. And for this person, the change happened when the company also went to remote work. So how do you make that transition? First of all, I don't know if you've picked this up in other things that I've written or said. I'm not a fan of the word virtual. I kind of think I'm real. I just happen to not be with you right now. So I'm not virtual. I'm real. You're real too. You're here. So side note on that. But how do you make the transition from the peer to the manager, and especially when you can't be in person, to do what really is the gold standard of becoming a good leader, a good manager, is trust. So I think you have to think carefully about, how am I having conversations that create trust with this other person? And creating trust often happens more by asking better questions than by telling people more things. I mean, you can say to somebody all you want, oh, I want you to trust me. Oh, I want you to tell me what is going on. Oh, I really care about you. Oh, I'm really thinking about you. And that's lovely and wonderful. And those of you who are managers and leaders out there, I mean, give yourself a little pat on the back, because it's a tough time to be a leader, to be a manager. But trust is always going to be the glue that helps you through the tougher times. And when you're building a different type of trust, especially as a leader, as a manager, you've got to have a different conversation. So, I would call it out. I would have that conversation with somebody to say, I just want to take a step back and admit that this is a little awkward. I'm really honored to have the opportunity to work with you as your manager. And we've been peers for a long time. So, if it feels awkward to you too, it does to me. And just be able to open up that conversation. But then say, there are some things that as peers, we probably didn't ask of each other, but I'm really curious. I would love to know a little bit more about, and then you decide, what you'd like to know more about them. You might want to know more about their real career direction. You may have made assumptions as a peer that they thought like you did, but often we just don't take a step back, and we don't give people the space to answer for themselves, and also give ourselves the space to have a clean slate with somebody. So I would start with, kind of that, first of all, admit that it's awkward, admit that you might not know exactly the right thing to do. And you might also ask them to say, I'd like your help on this. I'd like us just to have some ground rules that, can you call me out on my stuff? Or if there's something else you need, you have my permission to speak up. I do have a client where one of the things when she took on big new responsibilities, managing, especially in a remote environment, that we really had to help her structure some time in her schedule to have what I call a step back conversation. We're so focused, and especially in this medium, that we just want to get efficient. We don't want to. We don't want to have a lot of chit chat. It's like we want to get things done. Or if it's chit chat, there's a few of us that are rolling our eyes, and there's other people that are enjoying the chit chat. But having that one-on-one space, that opportunity for somebody to take a step back and to hear you, and to hear that it's okay, that really asking, hey, I just want to check in. What's really going on? How are you really? What's one or two things I should know about you to help us move forward better? Some of these things are things we would always do remotely or in person, but I think they get magnified and they need to be more deliberate in a remote environment. So, great. So thank you for that question from Confidential. Also, I will point out Sheila is on, I think Sheila Nero is on the call. I think she shared her information earlier. She is also writing a lot on LinkedIn and doing a lot of remote expert work. So somebody else who has different tools and resources to do that. Okay. All right. Oh, and Rebecca, shared some questions, a couple questions she's found helpful in establishing trust. What do you need from me? How can I help you make your life easier? Yeah, that's great. Another question I like is, what's the one thing that you don't think that I know? Or maybe that's not quite right, the phrase, but it's kind of getting at you expect that there is something you don't know. Maybe my brain is getting a little fuzzy as we get on into the evening, but being open to letting someone know that you don't expect you have all the answers. As a matter of fact, as a manager, your job is not to have all the answers. Your job is to ask better questions. Okay. So here is another question. This is from a different Becky. So, this is a really good one. I recognize that now is not a superb time to be searching for a new job. Others have been let go involuntarily and are desperately in need of a job. Yes, there's many of us, some people on this call too. But my current job is killing me. How much would it tarnish my resume if I were to take a short, perhaps 3 months break from the workplace to work through my thoughts, reprioritize, and begin the process of finding a new job? Is there anything I can do that would offset the damage and help future employers see the value of the time off and a renewed focus as something positive? So I've had this question several times. Hey, I'm exhausted. I need a break. What I'm doing is not what I need to be doing. I think I should just step back and rethink everything and then dive into the job search. Or I've also had people have this happen when they've been laid off, to say, well, I'm not going to dive forward until I have clarity, until I know what I want or where I am. And lovingly, I would suggest to you that rarely works. Here's why. Unless you know that you can financially afford to take, a break of a year or more, when you are telling yourself, well, I'm just going to take that 3-month break, I'm just going to put everything on pause for 3 months, what happens is first of all, you lose momentum. You get out of motion because you've let yourself basically, it's okay to change course, but when you stop, it's hard to start again. This is just the laws of physics, right? And when we're in a job that, and I really respect Becky's comment here of, my current job is killing me. One of the first things that I really suggest someone doing is, first of all, identify, is it the job? Is it a person? Is it an element of the job? Again, getting very specific, and this is where coaching can help to really unpack, because we're so close to it, right? We can't see the label when we're inside the jar. To really tease out, what is the part that's killing me? Because often there's something that's in there that may be an assumption that we're making, or it may be one person. and not the whole thing. So first of all, understanding what is the killing part. I had a client not too long ago who recognized that what was killing her was the volume of work that 60, 70% she was creating herself, and creating out of a sense of should, out of a sense of obligation, out of a sense of, but this would be the right thing to do. But I asked her to pull back and to say, what if nobody cared? You know, like, why, if you just pulled back, you didn't do those things, if you dropped those balls, and to experiment with pulling back, to experiment with dropping some of those balls. What she found is that there were some things that nobody did care about, that she was killing herself, that working hard, trying to keep everything in motion, and it didn't really matter to a lot of people. So she could make some adjustments. It wasn't going to be the perfect job forever, but she could make some adjustments to protect herself so that it wasn't killing her, so that she could put some of that energy into looking for what's next. So a break sounds nice on paper. And again, if you can financially afford it and you know yourself well enough to know you will have the discipline at a certain point to gear back up and pick back up and feel confident in yourself, and to get, you know, into full motion, because somebody out there needs you. This isn't about you. Somebody needs you. When you step out, it's hard to find that person. So that's why I'm not a fan of the intentional short-term break. You can also get clear as you do. I think we also make an assumption often that that clarity comes from stopping, when actually clarity comes from action. Clarity comes from trying, from talking to people. It is the action that tells us what we're curious about, what we like. It's the conversation with each person. It's not some great lightning bolt that comes down from on high. So we also, I think we have some other resources on clarity. I don't know if I had them in the list, but Deb, if you make a note for me, we can add it to what we send out, so that if you're somebody who you're thinking you really just should leave your job and you're not sure what you want, before you do that, I would advise you to do some of the work to get clear and just to take some actions now, before you walk out and don't have anything, you're not ahead of anything. So, okay. All right, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I know some of you will need to go. And so let's give away one more thing, and then we'll go for just a little while longer for anybody who wants to stick around. And I'm so appreciative of all of you. For those of you who have to leave, or you're going to leave because it's an hour and you got to go eat something or you got to go somewhere. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of my insider community. Please invite friends, colleagues. This community is better as there are more people like you in it, and we get a chance to talk. And if you liked this, we'll do this again sometime too. But let's give away something before we get to the top of the hour. So let's give away another power hour. How's that? So here's the question for another power hour. What's the one thing you need to remember to end the year strong? And remember, you can just answer anything you want. There's no right or wrong. To get a power hour coaching session with me, what's the one thing you need to remember to end the year strong? Maybe it's some time matter. It will get better. Yes, it will get better. Anything. What do you need to remember? Or not forget? Is that the same thing as remember? I don't know. So just a few more seconds. Chime in if you want to be entered for the power hour coaching session. I'm just watching the time. I'm going to take a sip of water, give you a couple seconds. Okay. All right. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be great. Yes. Great. All right. Yesterday is over. Focus on today. I love that. So great. All right. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. And Deb is going to pick another person to get a power hour coaching session with me from everybody who answered. So Deb will put that in the answer winners. Karen K. Okay. All right. Okay. So congratulations, Karen. We will be in touch. I'm going to go to just a couple other questions here that are a little more specific. So, what a blessing. You're a blessing, Karen, you and all of us who are here. So, all right, here's a question that I've heard people ask a lot. What's appropriate anymore to share on LinkedIn? I see people sharing what I feel like are personal, Facebooky type things. Is that now okay? So, here's my point of view. Never share anything on LinkedIn that doesn't represent who you are and what you care about professionally. So that means if there is something that's in the world that is not something that's your focus professionally, avoid it. So that might mean something's happening with you personally. I appreciate the fact that we all have people who have health issues and other things, but to me, and this is just my opinion, sharing the situation that happened with our aunt, uncle, friend, without it having a connection to something personal, professionally, doesn't belong on LinkedIn. It doesn't reflect your personal brand very well. Now, the exception to that is that you might make a connection. You guys see that I try to do this from time to time in the stories that I share, in the emails that you read, and that there may be something that is happening personally, but there's a takeaway that applies to something thinking about at work or something thinking about professionally. So in those cases, I think it makes a lot of sense. But thinking about your audience, who is the person that is your connection, the person that might be that warm introduction that we talked about earlier, or the person that might be the person who needs you, the person who has a problem that you can solve or has pain that you can solve. Is the thing you're talking about something that's going to reflect of you well? Is that thing that you're putting on LinkedIn something that represents what you stand for, who you are, how you want to be thought of in the world? I think the other thing that happens when people start using LinkedIn as kind of Facebook is that the brain wants a clear picture of who you are and what you do. And so we had a question earlier about being in the box. Well, people naturally want to put you in a box. But you get to call out that box. You get to decide what that box is. And so if your box is too, I can't figure out who you are and what you do, and this goes to not just what you post, but your LinkedIn headline and profile and everything. But if I can't make heads or tails of who you really are and what you might want, then I don't respond to you, or I don't want to connect with you. I don't want to learn more about you. I'm not intrigued. I'm not curious. The brain doesn't like to expend extra calories to have to figure something out. If we want to be in touch with people, if we want to influence people, if we want to bring our superpowers to work with people, we've got to make it easy for people to know how to connect with us, what kind of ideas we bring, what are the things that we do. So I would say focus on the things that are in your professional space that are encouraging and encouraging others. If you follow me on LinkedIn, and if we're not connected, definitely reach out, send a personal note, always personalize a note, say, hey, Darcy, I was on your AMA webinar. But encourage people, recognize people. Way to go, Eric, good job, Karen. Magnify their content. If it's somebody that you really like what they're doing, what they're saying, share it. Spread it along. I know Sheila has done this with some of the things that I share. I've tried to do it with some of the things that she shares because it helps the people that we're in connection with. So all of that adds up. So if you're questioning whether it's appropriate, chances are it might not be. If you see something, you see a pattern of other people putting things on about things you don't think are appropriate, think about your own reaction. Are you Are you excited to connect with them? Do you think more highly of them? So, no, LinkedIn has not become Facebook. You can use LinkedIn in the way that it works for you, which is to show you at your very best in the professional sense. Okay. All right. So thank you to those of you. I know that are taking off. So we'll take one more question, and we'll give away one more thing before we're totally done. So because we had so many good questions. Okay. All right. This is kind of somewhat related to one of the other questions that we had. Like many others, our company let people go recently. I kept my job, and that's great, but now I'm overloaded. How do I manage the work of 3 people? So I think I answered this a little bit in the person who said the job was killing them. But I think it also goes when we're overwhelmed, we're overloaded, we have too much, is that we've got to drop some balls. And where do you find what balls can drop? So I think you go back to what we talked about at the top of the conversation, right? It's find the pain. Because yes, everything that's probably coming at you feels like somebody's pain. But one of the, I hate to say good things about the crisis that we're going through now, but there is a good thing in terms of giving you the opportunity to filter what's not important. I mean, you might have done this in your personal life a little bit. I know a lot of my clients have, I know I have. We can do the same thing at work, and we can do it even now. We can press reset on certain things and say, you know what, took a hard look back at these particular projects. And now, in light of this being the most important thing, I'm going to focus my energies here. Now, to do that, you may have to try some strategies to say no. I know we've got some links and some tools and scripts on that. You may also go back to that tough conversation with your boss. But even though you're worried that, hey, my company's already laid people off, and so I don't want to be laid off too, I just need to sponge up all the work. You can't do that, because then what happens to you is then you're not successful, not only within yourself, but also it sets you up. And I had a client where this happened. Like, she thought she was being a good team player by trying to suck up all the excess work. But then her performance reviews went down because she missed deadlines. She dropped things. So you need to renegotiate the plate as it is. You need to figure out what to say no to, or better yet, not to let it add on, like to let that ball sit dropped, and to change the role. You may need to also have changed the conversations with some of the people that you're interacting with. And I call this a relationship reset. And a time of change is a great time to do a relationship reset, where it's back to, I think we said, that's kind of that take a step back conversation. How do you go back and look at the real situation, have a conversation with the person about where it's been, where it's evolved, and make that recommendation as to where it needs to go next. So taking a reset time often allows you to not be doing the work of everybody that was gone, because your company made a business decision to let people go. And when they did that, the problem is that when we absorb it all around us, there is no pain for our leaders to recognize that, you know what, that part of the business isn't going to get done now. And when there's no pain, we saw this after the last recession, when everybody just scrambles to soak everything up, leaders don't know that they need to hire. They don't know they need to restructure or hire contractors. When you are soaking up and taking all the pain in yourself and not getting anything out of it, like opportunities, I mean, there's nothing wrong with working hard. There's nothing wrong with doing new things. But if it's not in your superpower space, if it's not stuff that's pulling you forward, then you can't let it drag you down. Okay. All right. We are at 10 after the hour. You all have been with me for an hour. I think most of you have. I am so grateful that I hope you found something tonight in this unscripted, PowerPoint free evening of questions and answers. We'll make sure there's a couple more questions, but there's still some people who, and I'll get back to them personally. If you had a question, it didn't get answered, make sure to email me. You can just, as you know, in my insider community, you can reply to any email you get from me. And those go straight to me, and no bots, no, not even the amazing Deb Pelham, who's been on with us tonight. And I really work hard to respond to every single one. So you can always feel comfortable. And also, it's confidential. So if you need to tell me something, I'm here to hear it. So let's do one more private LinkedIn video review before we go. So, the last question, 30 seconds. And again, just chime in. You can say anything you want, but one word or phrase that you're walking away from tonight with. One word or phrase you're walking away from tonight. So something that comes to mind. So just take a couple seconds, chime in, and then we're going to give away one last private LinkedIn video review. So, all right. So here, confidence, encouraged. Couple more seconds as don't give up. Don't give up. Yes. Oh, I love that. Find the pain. Find the pain. I've probably said find the pain, find the problem several times. And we miss this, right? But every job is pain that needs to be solved, right? If it's an open job, someone has opened it up, has created it because it needs to solve a pain. If you're going to have your own business, I think someone had questions here we didn't get to about opening your own business. What's the problem you solve? What's the pain you solve? That's the core of work, right? That's what work is. So, okay, last call for someone to chime in for the drawing for the private LinkedIn profile video review. It's a lot of words. I need to come up with a simpler way to say that. And okay, that's it. And Deb Pelham, please pick our winner. And we have Rebecca G. Okay, all right. Thank you all. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you for being part of my insider community, for joining us tonight or this afternoon or this morning or wherever you are in the world. We will be sending out this replay along with some of the links, and of course, you'll see me pop into your inbox as I usually do every week. I appreciate you. I know how awesome you are, and thank you for putting your red cape on and soaring through this crazy time in our new world of work. Appreciate you very much. Bye for now.